Welcome to the Money Mastermind Show. Let's talk money.
And welcome to the Money Mastermind Show. You may have heard about the minimalism movement. That's a lot of M's there all at once. That's been going on for a few years now, basically. I want to say since the recession hit. I think minimalism is really kind of taking a forefront in a lot of people's minds as far as personal finance. But what you might not have heard is how good it is for your wallet. A lot of people have done it maybe out of necessity rather than as a conscious choice. So we're going to talk about minimalism today, and we brought on an expert in that, Kate Flanders of blondeonabudget.com. Welcome to our show, Kate.
No, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you here. And let's go through the members of the Money Mastermind Show. We have Miranda Marquette of Planting Money Seeds, Peter Anderson of Bible Money Matters, Tom Drake of the Canadian Finance Blog, Kyle Prevost of youngandthrifty.ca. He's not with us tonight. And I'm Glenn Craig of Free From Broke. Before we start, as always, if you are watching us live, head over to our event page, and there's a question app. And if you have any questions about minimalism, drop them there because we'd love to hear them. Now, Kate, you seem to have a lot of experience with minimalism. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, that's a big question.
Yeah, I know. We're jumping right in there. Well, how about this? Let's break it down a little bit. What do you consider minimalism to be? Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so my definition, like everyone's is a little different. I think it's definitely a buzzword right now, and I think when most people, just based on conversations I've had with people, most people hear the word minimalist and they automatically assume you live with 100 things and you have nothing more than 100 things in your home. Or there are stories where people have, like they live out of one suitcase or out of one backpack and they have no belongings other than what fits in that. That is not how I would define minimalism. My definition would be that everything you do have adds value to your life. So you actually genuinely get a use out of it, or it brings you some amount of joy or pleasure. So just not having clutter. Like if you can look around your house and everything you have is something that you use, you value, you really enjoy for some reason, that is my definition of being a minimalist.
All you need to be minimalist is a sword on the wall, right? That's all you need.
Oh yeah, if it adds value to your life, that's all you need.
That's home security.
You can get anything you want with a good sword. I always like to bring it back to economic terms. It sounds like what you're saying is as long as everything that you have brings real utility to what you're doing, you're getting its full utility out of it.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. I haven't thought of it that way before.
So you're not talking about like is it David Thoreau where you're like going into the forest and building your own home and then living off the land basically?
No.
Not quite that far.
No, I will say this whole experience has made me become much more resourceful, though. So one of the things I've experienced in the last year or so is because I'm not able to, well, this is sort of side topic, but with the shopping ban also, because I'm not able to buy a lot of things, I've become a lot more resourceful in making things, fixing things, growing some of my own food, stuff like that. But no, I'm not living in the forest off the land quite yet.
We'll get to that shopping ban in a sec. I do want to add, when you tell yourself you're not going to immediately go and buy or hire somebody to fix things, because when you own a home, you're either becoming a fix-it person and or you're becoming, a person that has a lot of people on a short list to call when there's a problem. And there's always going to be a problem. But it does make you more resourceful, and you really do have to figure things out. And a lot of things you find aren't that hard to figure out. And when you do fix things on your own, you realize, wow, I did that for like $10, but if I hired somebody, it would have been like $80.
Yep, and one of the things I experienced with it was all the women in my family, like when I grew up, my mom and my aunt were both seamstresses, and they owned like a fabric store where they made clothes, sold the clothes that they made. My mom used to sew like elaborate Halloween costumes for me. And up until about 5, 6 months ago, I didn't even know how to stitch a button onto a shirt. And I don't know, like in my head, I made it seem like it was going to be a bigger deal than it was. And then I finally just asked, like I had a pair of pants that had a rip in them, and I finally just asked for a quick sewing lesson, and now I've fixed a bunch of clothes. So it's just stuff like that. And that's free, right? Like other than the thread, that's free. So
It's a funny, like, fear of technology almost. Like younger generations, obviously, you think about the fear of technology. It's older people who maybe don't know how to use spreadsheets or the internet, and they go with fear of technology. They can't figure out the time on their VCR if anybody still has one of those. But it kind of goes both ways, right? Because the younger generations, they don't have the technological know-how to do simple things like fix things. Like fix a boiler in the basement or do an oil change on the car or things like that. And it's the same technology, and it's almost the same fear to jump into it. It's just interesting how it goes both ways.
yeah, it's fear, and I also think it's just convenience. Like we've grown up in this time where everything is super convenient. We can go and buy anything that we need at a store, and that's 5 minutes away. And so the pants that were ripped, like I might have just thrown them out eventually and just bought a new pair. But now that I fixed them, I'll probably get another year out of them. So I think a lot of it's convenience. I think people are really happy to pay for something that can be done quickly.
And
Yeah,
in some places, I think it does make sense to just buy something. I mean, some things the costs come down so much it just does make sense. But a lot of times, you really could save a lot. I'm sorry, Peter. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of it has to do, in some respects, in kind of a shift in culture. Just a sense of a lot more consumerism these days. If you look at magazines back in the 50s and 60s, a lot of the ads in these magazines were for household goods and lower-end products. But if you look at those same exact magazines today, all the ads in these magazines are for luxury items, vacations, high-end, high-dollar things. And we buy things, we replace things if they get broken. We don't try to fix things. So it's just a wholesale shift in culture, I think. So.
Well, I was just gonna say, my mom sews as well, and we just went to the fabric store not too long ago to buy some fabric for my son, who is really into sewing. He sews better than I do.
Cool.
But yeah, who's really into it. And one thing I noticed is that it costs more now to buy fabric at the fabric store than it does to just go and buy a cheap shirt from the store, because like what Peter was talking about, because prices have gone down so much in the last few years that it costs more to go buy a couple yards of fabric than it does to just go down to like Walmart or Target or something and get a cheap t-shirt. And so my son's the pajama shirt my son sold for himself that he's going to wear to bed for pajamas cost more than probably half the shirts in his closet, because it has come down so much. So that's one of the things too that I think goes into play as well. It's really cool that you have the skill and you can sew like a whole outfit, but it's not cost efficient. But like what you were saying, it is cost efficient to like repair what you've already bought. And so I think that you kind of have to weigh that as well.
Another thing, it's sort of a side rant, but on the topic of sewing, is it's incredible to know how much fabric people keep in their homes and they never sew with.
Oh my gosh.
It's unreal, right? Like I can't even tell you how many comments I've gotten on my blog about that, saying people, I'm going to go through my stack of fabric, and I don't know. I'm like, I wish there was a way everyone could kind of just recycle it between each other and just share it. So.
Well, my mom has like a closet that is like full of these cubbies that just have fabric in them.
Yep, my mom too.
Yeah, like you could piece together like 4 good quilts with all of that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have that. Maybe it's not fabric, but for me, maybe it's networking equipment. I have a big, several bins full of old networking equipment and cables and wires for technology I don't even use anymore. And it's like, well, maybe I'll need it someday, or I don't want to throw it out because I'm sure there'll be that one day where I need that one cord. So, a lot of our clutter, it almost seems like we hold on to it because we think maybe I'll need it someday.
Yeah, the Minimalist, like the Minimalist.com, those guys have a great post about that. I think it's called like what if items or something like that. And it's like, but their rule is if you can get it again within 20 minutes of your home and for less than $20, get rid of it. And that's
Oh.
that's maybe not the most effective thing, but think of it like if you're holding on to all those cords, you can probably go to a store one day and buy it for $6 if you really needed it. Um, so it's just interesting, like how much clutter are you willing to hold on to versus could you replace it for like $6?
And I think that brings up an interesting point in minimalism. Minimalism isn't always just about like being frugal. There's there's difference. Sometimes minimalism is about just getting rid of the clutter and then being willing to go out there and spend that money later if you need to.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's two things. So one is a lot of minimalists are still pretty happy to pay for good quality things, and that doesn't just mean going and buying designer stuff. Designer things are not always great. But to buy a nicely made, like well-made pair of pants versus a $20 cheap pair of jeans that are going to fall apart in 6 months or something like that. Like, yeah, it's definitely like appreciating every single item that you're buying. I actually experienced that during the shopping ban where I wasn't supposed to buy any new clothes for a year, but then I only had one pair of jeans and it got a huge rip and there was no way to fix it. Miranda will know it was in the inner thigh. Like there's literally no way to fix that, right? No. Like you can't fix that. So I had to go buy a new pair of jeans, and I'm stupid, and I went and bought a pair for $20. And for the first like 3 months of wearing them, I hated them because they were like crunchy and uncomfortable. And I'm so mad at myself that I wasted, because I'm only allowed to buy the one freaking pair. And I'm so mad that I wasted that one purchase on something for $20. If I'd spent like 50 or so, I probably could have gotten a way better, more comfortable pair.
And if you weren't in a shopping ban, let's say, you would be tempted to go, you know what, I'm just going to eat this and buy another pair, and maybe that $50 pair, now you spent $80 instead of spending the $50 in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, there's that whole aspect of you get what you pay for, too, which I think a lot of people don't quite understand. They think that maybe if they're getting an item cheaper, that they're saving money, and sometimes they are, but that quality pays off over time, too.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes it's worth it if you know, and it goes maybe back to that utility too. If you know you're going to use something and it's going to be useful to you and you're going to need it, it might be worth paying for a higher quality. Not necessarily for a higher name, like you said, or a name brand, but for that quality, knowing that it'll last. And sometimes that's even just having a brand that maybe backs it up with a warranty. You know, like you buy something from LL Bean and something happens to it, you mail it back to them and say, I don't like it, it's ripped, whatever, and they'll give you an instant refund.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as cheap as the Gap, let's say, but if anything happens, you know, you got that backup.
Yeah, and I actually did it. It was hard for me because I'm really, in the past, I was never someone who would spend a lot of money on anything. But about a year and a half ago, so it was before the shopping ban, I'd carried the same purse for like 4 years, and it was just ripped and awful. And I was literally walking down the street in Toronto. I had everything in it. I had my laptop, my wallet, just everything. And the strap, it was leather, and the strap just literally snapped, and my stuff fell all over the street. And so I had to go out that day, and I looked at a bunch of stuff, and I eventually decided on one that was way more than I would normally spend. But it's a year and a half or 2.5 years later. I can't remember when I bought it. It looks brand new. Like, it doesn't even look like it's been touched. So I'm like, it was worth the money. It's so basic. It's not like it's fancy or anything, but it was worth the money, so.
So let's go back to that. You've mentioned this ban a few times now. My understanding is you're in the second year of a shopping ban. So if you could tell us a little bit about that and why.
Yeah.
Why? Please tell us why.
Because you're really dragging down the economy.
Why would you do this?
Yeah.
I've got stocks that are riding on you, and you're really not helping us.
Okay, so, well, you guys will appreciate this. Like, we're finance bloggers, so I became debt-free a little over 2 years ago. And throughout the entire time that I was paying off my debt, I would share my monthly budgets on my site. And when I was paying off debt, like, there were months where I was putting upwards of 55% of my income towards debt repayment. And that wasn't really sustainable. I actually wasn't even earning that much. When I look back at those budgets, I'm kind of blown away that I was able to do that. But I was allocating so much money towards debt repayment, and also during that time, when I look back, I feel like I was sort of living in a shopping ban world back then, because I just wasn't letting myself spend money on anything. And I think as soon as I was debt-free, I just kind of started spending all my money again. And I never went back into debt, But yeah, it was just, going out every time friends wanted to go out for dinner or something. Like I started going out more often, and just little things like that, little luxuries and little things that I wasn't letting myself buy, like a candle or more books again or something. Like I was just picking it up. And so it took a while for me to notice this, but I used to post my budget, like my planned budget at the beginning of the month, and I would always aim to save 20% of my income. And then at the end of every single month, I would get to it, and I would have saved maybe 8%, 12%. Like, I think it took a year for me to finally hit the 20%. And I would feel so bad. Like, I would be so mad at myself and feel so guilty every single time. And then finally, just something kind of clicked, and I realized I wasn't getting anywhere with my savings goals because I was just letting it be okay that I was spending all my other money. And I realized it because I had this great conversation with my sister, who was like 19 or 21 or 20 at the time, and she said to me, I'm saving 30% of my income so I can do whatever I want with the rest. And I was like, okay, but she lives at home and is a university student, so I'm like, do you really need all the rest of your income, or could you be saving more? And as soon as I said it to her, because like I love her and I care about her, it like flipped, and I was like, whoa, why haven't I been telling myself that same advice? And so there were kind of two things. Like the shopping ban came from the fact that I realized I just wanted to try to live on less. And also because I was able to look around my apartment and see like I hadn't hit any of my savings goals, and yet I had all these new little things in my place. And I didn't need anything more. Like when I look around my home, I have everything I could possibly need. So I just decided no shopping for a year. I sort of joked with a friend that I needed new blogging material when I started it. But truthfully, I knew, like, I didn't need anything more. So that's where it started. That was July of last year.
And now you're continuing that ban again for another year?
Yeah, so the first year was really successful. Like things I wasn't allowed to buy was like clothes, books, anything for my home, like unless I ran out of toiletry that I actually needed, soap, whatever, shampoo. Other than that, and I was not allowed to get takeout coffee. And takeout coffee was a big one for me because that was probably my one vice. I used to live in Toronto and in Vancouver, and I shouldn't blame it on like city lifestyle, but living in this city, there is just like this different weird pressure where you just kind of automatically fit into this life where like everyone goes to Starbucks twice a day and that's just like what you do. And
when it's also when it's a stone's throw away too,
Yeah, they're literally everywhere, right?
You can have them here in Idaho Falls. When I moved to Idaho Falls, they didn't have them. Now there's like 2 or 3, and I don't know who's drinking it or why they need them, but here they are.
They knew you were coming.
Yeah. So I wasn't allowed to take out coffee. That was also included. So the first year was really successful. I kind of, changed some bad habits. Like I stopped drinking takeout coffee, which was great. I stopped buying books, which was a huge one for me because, by the time I started the shopping ban, I had probably 50 or 60 books that I owned, but I'd never even read. So that was really successful. And in the last month or so of the ban, of like the first year, I just realized that it was almost too easy. I wanted to try again, but the biggest reason I'm doing it a second year is because this time I want to track every single thing that I do buy. And so it might sound silly, but like I'm writing down like 1 bottle of toothpaste, like a pack of razors, whatever, because at the end of the year, I want to show how much a person, and probably like a female, we buy makeup, whatever, but like how much maybe the average female consumer might actually need to buy to get through a year. So it's, in my eyes, it's sort of an experiment for everyone. I'll just be very curious to see what the results are at the end.
So let me get clear, like what were you actually allowing yourself to buy? So you're not talking about like I had to make my own toilet paper, we were figuring out ways to make soap,
No.
like I was crushing plants to make new makeup. Like,
No, although that obviously I'm not making my own toilet paper. But
you do. There are people out
I
there
know.
That is
that
a
write
thing.
articles
Yes,
about
that is a
that, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but I just want
We
to
should
clear
have
up where
that
we're
person
coming
on the
from.
show. No, so I'm not doing that. But basic toiletries. So yeah, I'm still buying soap. It was weird though. Like partway through the year, I realized I did want to attempt to make some of my own things. So now actually I wash my hair, and it'll sound weird at first. I wash my hair just with baking soda and then do an apple cider vinegar rinse. I don't buy shampoo or conditioner right now. It's sort of an experiment. I just started it, but it's been going well so far. So yeah, so I am in some ways attempting some of that stuff, which at the beginning I never thought I'd do. I wrote in one of the posts like I'll never be someone who makes her own products or anything like that. And about 6 or 7 months into it, I'm like, why wouldn't I try that? So I don't know. I think this year will be interesting. I'm still buying like regular soap and stuff like that though, but we'll see.
So where do you draw the line on like what you can buy? Like even food shopping is something where you can run the gamut right there. You know, you could say I'm just going to buy some basic organic ingredients and make everything myself, or you could go crazy and buy like pints of Ben and Jerry's, and you're like, well, is that minimalist or not? I mean, I get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Well, that's
But,
I wouldn't.
they're
I
like
wouldn't-
$5 a pint.
Yeah, I wouldn't say food's ever in it. And even the shopping ban, it wasn't just a money thing. It was more just a consumer thing. Like I wanted to become a more conscious consumer and just pay more attention to why I was buying things. So if I needed or like ice cream, if I really wanted it, like that's okay. I will say I don't really buy a lot of processed foods at the store, other than maybe like a loaf of bread. I shop the perimeter, which is pretty commonly talked about in personal finance. So like I just hit produce, dairy, meat. That's about it. Maybe grab rice or some stuff in bulk. But that's about it.
Yeah,
Would you say that was normally what you did, or
Yeah,
more?
That's what I was like for a long time. For years I was a vegetarian, so it was just easier, and then I went back to eating a little bit of meat. So yeah, no, it's just been like that for a long time.
So what about eating out? That's one of the things that I wanted to ask about, because I love to go out to eat. I probably eat out once a week now. But 6 weeks ago it was every day. But but yeah, so what do you do about that? I mean, you mentioned, your friends would ask you to go out and you go out with them all the time. Did you cut back on that? How did you handle that? What happened to your social life?
Yeah, so I will say, I'm like, in some ways I don't think I was ever clear on it. So I still eat out at restaurants. I just do it less often. The whole point of it wasn't to, I don't know. It wasn't to like ruin my social life. Like I didn't do this with the hope of, or I don't know, changing things like that. But I will say that in the last probably 3-4 months, I've noticed I've gone out for some meals, and at the end of it, like at the end of every meal I used to go out for, I would be totally happy to pay whatever the bill was, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. And I've just gotten more. Yeah, I've had more experiences lately where I've been going out for meals, and when the bill comes, I genuinely feel like I didn't get what I paid for. And I don't know if it's because of a dollar amount or what. Like I've had a great time with my friends, so it's that, but I don't know, I think I just am at a point where I'm like, I would much rather like have a friend over and cook a meal with them than go out. If I went out, well, and maybe it's also, I'm sort of thinking here, like maybe it's sort of the meals that I'm going out for. Like I'm like, if it's like breakfast or something, like I can make a really good breakfast at home. So I'd kind of have more fun if I had a friend over and like made eggs Benny or bacon or whatever, right? Like for them. Than going out and spending like $30 on brunch somewhere. It's crazy. So I don't know. So I do still go out, but I've been thinking a lot about it lately, and I've been going out a lot less.
That's kind of my restaurant rule too. Is if I'm going to pay someone, it's got to be something I can't make myself. And
Yeah.
I have the same kind of regrets when I see the bill. I almost think, well, gee, this could have bought like 5 meals of groceries. So it's
No,
it's a bit of remorse.
It's true though, and it was just weird. I'd never ever had that before, and then the first time I had it was back in May, and I went out and I had a great time. I was with a girlfriend. We sat there for like 2 hours. But when the bill came, it was $30, and I'm like, I had a dinner and an iced tea, and I'm like, that was not $30 worth of food. I don't know. So I sort of had that realization finally with takeout coffee. It took a long time for me to, I'll say, like, not miss takeout coffee, because it still just came up here and there, right? And as we've said, Starbucks is literally everywhere. And so you'd see it all the time, you're reminded of it all the time. But then there was a day where it just came, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to spend $5 on that. I make really good coffee at home.
It's a funny thing. We've discovered that too, where, like, if you make a lot of your own meals, and you're decent at it, you realize that the quality of the food that you get at a lot of places, maybe I'm just eating at the wrong places, but the quality of the food that you get isn't really that much more, because a lot of the food kind of caters to the masses, and it tends to be like a higher fat content, a higher salt content, a higher sugar content, right? So you eat the food, and then, you just don't necessarily even feel as good from eating the food.
Yeah.
Maybe it tastes great as you eat it because it has all these ingredients that the body just wants to eat a lot of. But we find that it's like, you know what? That the salad that we spent $12 here is not even half as good as what we could do at home.
Mm-hmm.
Or
that you
like,
could have made for like 4 or 5.
Right, if that much even.
Or less.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the omelet that we got there was, it was this greasy thing that was okay, but yeah, again, we could have done better at home.
Yeah.
Now sometimes maybe that just means that you end up going to more expensive places.
That's my solution to those kinds of problems.
But it goes back to the earlier comments about, like, really enjoying it, and again, what are you getting out of it? So we're a little more apt to go to a nicer restaurant and really try something out that we know that we're going to enjoy the food. Like, it's really going to be more of an event than using it sort of as an easy way out. Sometimes you got to do that too, especially if you have kids. When the army's hungry, you feed them. But you find that you could tend to do better at home, and it ends up being less too, money wise.
The other thing too, though, that it made me think of is that one thing I've noticed with restaurants is that I've been a lot more inclined to try new ones rather than just going to, like, old favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an experience thing, which I'll say is like another minimalist thing. Like, people who define themselves as minimalists are often very happy to pay for experiences. So travel is usually at the top of that. But I don't know, there's something about, like, going to a new restaurant. It's a different experience than one you're used to. So it may not work out, but, like, at least you tried.
It certainly seems like minimalism, if it's not something that's already been part of your lifestyle, it's certainly something that pushes you out of the box a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It almost seems like the minimalism lifestyle.
You see it happening too.
Yeah, it's a hard word to say. It can be also more about appreciating the things that you do have, appreciating the experiences that you're having, and it's not about quantity; it's about quality. There's a book called The High Price of Materialism by Tim Kasser that talks about how people that have a central focus on financial success and material things in their lives tend to be more distressed, have more depression, and more problems adjusting to life, and have low well-being. So, and just that focus on having things and having a lot of things or whatever, in some ways can kind of sap your happiness and take over your life, give you less freedom.
I'm actually really glad you said that, just because, like, 2 things. One, I relate to that statement, like, exactly. When I look back at how I went into debt years ago, it was because I was really unhappy with where I was at in life, and so I bought everything brand new. I filled my apartment with brand new furniture, everything matched. I just wanted the newest and best of everything. I bought a brand new car, financed it, and I was still miserable. And then the weirdest effect, I think, of getting rid of all my stuff is that I feel more like myself than I ever have. Like, it was about 6 or 7 months into the whole journey where I realized, like, I think I know myself better right now than I ever have, and I'm very comfortable with who I am and just like who I am, and I really like my life and my lifestyle right now. And it's because I'm not pursuing anything more. I'm just, like, living.
I'm going to dare to say this, but, it always comes up where people ask, like, their favorite personal finance book, and, there's certainly a lot that are favorites, but, I don't see this often listed, but I think Fight Club pretty much nails it.
I've heard it.
That's fantastic.
Say
Yes.
why though? Say why though? Because I've heard that.
Well, because of the whole minimalism aspect, and when you were just talking about how you went into debt and you were buying all new furniture and everything else like that, I couldn't help but think of the character in the movie where he's got the perfect apartment, he's got all the perfect furniture, and everything is all set up, and his life is empty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's the consumerism attitude that a lot of us have, where we think we have to have this, that, and the other thing, and it maybe fills a space of sorts, but it's not there for the right reasons, maybe.
No.
You know, and I think at times too, you know, it's kind of like we're trying to fill a hole or something in our lives with these things, but to a certain degree, I think consumerism is like that, but minimalism can be taken to the extreme as well, you know, where it almost becomes this idol in their lives as well. You know, I can't have more than 3 pairs of jeans, and if I do, I'm a failure in life, and that type of thing. You know, it's kind of when that your focus becomes on this thing, on either accumulating a lot of things, or your focus becomes accumulating, making sure you don't accumulate too much. The focus can become skewed either way, I think, in some respects.
Yeah, and in a weird way, I'm glad you brought that one up too, because I got a really nasty comment today because I wrote just something quickly on my blog today saying I was gonna just go through some boxes that I had. I just moved recently and go through some boxes and try and get rid of some more stuff, and it was pretty nasty. But one of the things that they said in the comment was exactly that, just kind of like, well, how few things can you own, and like you're just becoming obsessed with it. And my definition, I mean, because I can see that I've seen it with other people, my definition is just like, if I feel like I have clutter, then I don't want it. Like, and to clutter to me is like, if I'm organizing something or like spending time on my evenings or weekends cleaning stuff that I don't even use, like that's clutter. Like, just get rid of it. But I'm not obsessed with like I can only own one like bottle of shampoo and one razor and stuff like that.
Clutter is a funny thing. Like, it just seems to grow on itself, and you know, people question that as a financial thing to look at, but you know, that clutter takes up space, and that space costs money. You know, how many times do you move to a new house because you think you need more space? I need more closet space. I need a bigger garage. I need a bigger attic. Bigger basement, and then you just fill that up with more stuff, and then, well, now I need a bigger one. And you know, we had a moving episode recently, and you move, and you find you have boxes of stuff that you never even, like, you're just moving them. You don't really pull them out of the box. You got nowhere to put them. You don't really have no use for them. And I'm not talking about like really sentimental keepsakes. I'm talking about like things that you're just like, why am I moving this from one house to another?
Like Peter's box of cables.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
didn't you just have a post? I believe you just had a post on your site about this, about living out of boxes, and how half the boxes when you moved didn't even get opened up again.
Yeah, so that's what the one that just went up today that I was mentioning. Literally everything I have that I use every day is out. Like, and it's just whatever's in my bedroom, like clothes and then in bathroom, toiletries, towels. Obviously my kitchen, I use a lot of stuff in my kitchen. And my computer. And that's what I use. And yet I have these boxes right now that have, I don't know, extra blankets, I think. I know some stuff is like tools, like I just haven't needed to pull them out yet, and like I'm not going to get rid of my tools. So I know that there's some things I'm going to keep, but yeah, I can't really remember everything that's in them. I have 8 boxes right now. That's all I moved with, which is still kind of cool. Like, I moved with 8 small boxes. It's like 12 cubic feet. All my stuff fits into that. But I don't know what half of it is right now. So that's like what I'm going to do this month is go through them and try and figure that out.
You know, another interesting thing, there's a lot of other people who've become minimalist that you wouldn't necessarily associate, in that, like, you have Mark Zuckerberg, who always wears the same outfit every day, right? I think President Obama only has like a handful of suits that he'll ever wear, you know, and that type of thing. And the reasoning behind that is, you know, they're not trying to save money. Zuckerberg doesn't need to save any money, right? But it saves brain space and head space. Like, you're not thinking about what to do with this stuff. You're not thinking about how these different combinations that you need to do.
Yeah, it's called decision fatigue.
You see, I couldn't even think of that because
Yeah.
I have so much stuff in front of me.
You're trying to pick
brain
out
cells.
you're trying to pick out which of your 47 t-shirts you're gonna wear tomorrow.
Right. And I found like over time, like I would rather have like the 3 or 4 t-shirts that I know that no matter what I'm gonna hit, and then I don't feel like I have to say, but what if, than have 30. And I'm not saying I'm at that 4 at all because I need to clear out my closets just having this conversation. But it does feel better when you have like if you have one item that you love and works and you just stick with it.
Yep. And some people, I think I own, the last time I counted, I think I own 38 pieces of clothing, but I only own 1 pair of jeans. I only own 1 pair of workout capris, 1 pair of workout like pants, and I pretty much wear I wear the jeans every single day. That's all I wear. And I have 1 hoodie, maybe like 5 t-shirts, but I probably wear 2. But what was really weird is that I've always been that way. Like when I look back even at who I was in high school, like I was always like that. I've never, I don't know, clothes were never a huge thing for me. Somehow I accumulated stuff, but it'd be like I had a dress for 1 event, and then I just held on to it for like 6 years after. But no, I've always been that way. So it was more kind of fun doing this whole challenge for me to then realize I was always like that. Like I tackled clothes first because the other part of this obviously is like in the past year I've gotten rid of 70% of my belongings, and clothes were the first thing I tackled, and it was so easy because I could easily look at it and be like, yeah, I actually only wear like these probably 15, 20 things regularly. Everything else can go. Yeah, but no, it's decision fatigue, and it comes with everything, like the wearing one thing. I eat a lot of the same meals all the time, like not every day, but I'll meal plan and then eat that one thing for lunch like all week. If I make something for dinner on Monday, it's usually leftovers for Tuesday, Wednesday as well, because then you don't have to think about it. It also helps. I mean, I work for myself now, and so like, it's when you're at home and you're busy and you're just can't think about that stuff, like can't be bothered. It just helps so much when you don't have to think about what you're going to eat if it's just there and it's ready. Yeah.
And it takes so much more work too. I mean, I don't know if this is silly or not, but like for socks, I like to always have the same socks because I don't have the time or the energy to like match socks, right? So if all my socks aren't the same brand, it like drives me bonkers. I can't have one that's long. It's like I used to have that, like work socks. I would have different patterns or whatever, and then after a while, I'll be like, I'm spending an hour doing laundry here trying to match these things, and it's just give me black or brown. That's it. And I know that they fit, and I know that it doesn't take me more than 3 seconds to find a pair.
Yeah.
It just becomes a lot of work.
Gavin and I have the same size feet right now, so we buy man socks that fit us both, and we're both wearing the same black socks every day. And we just wash them. We don't have to sort it through socks or anything. They're just in a drawer that we both have access to. It won't last very long. But yeah, we have the
I think if we had to guess who would be like the one person doing the secret crazy minimalism, it wouldn't have been you, Miranda.
I wouldn't call myself. Well, I got rid of 75% of my stuff, when I moved to Pennsylvania, and we didn't replace a lot of it. And then when I moved back here to Idaho, a lot of the stuff got left, and so we've moved into this house, and there's like empty rooms. Everything in this room is like in this corner, and this is like a third of the room. 2/3 of the room is empty.
Completely empty.
Yeah, everything in this room is what you see right now, and it's all crammed into this one corner. And and we did buy a few things like so that people can sit down in our front room when they come to visit.
That's a necessity.
Yeah, and we bought a table so that we could sit down and eat our food. But and we bought a couch. We got a couch for downstairs. But that's, my whole thing, and even buying the washer and dryer. Everything, all of it together, I managed to keep it under, way within my budget. It was great.
I say there's nothing to make you want to be a minimalist more than moving. You know,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
When we moved 2 years ago, I mean, we got rid of a lot of stuff. It wasn't 70% of our stuff, that's for sure, but boxes upon boxes upon boxes of stuff to Goodwill. You know, stuff that we spent a lot of money on, I'm sure. In the end, what do? We just drop it off at a Goodwill store. So.
Yeah, and that's what I did on my way out of Westchester, Pennsylvania. I was like, I do not have enough room in my car for this pile of stuff, you know, because we were going to, partway through the trip, we were picking up a cousin of mine. So I'm like, this seat needs to be free. So everything in this seat, we're dropping off at the Goodwill on the way. And we'd already made 2 trips to the Goodwill. And I'm like, but everything in this seat is just getting dumped off at the Goodwill on the way out of town.
See, smart people like you guys got rid of everything before moving. When I moved into my house 6 years ago, I moved everything, and I think I'm an ex-hoarder, but I still have to get rid of the stuff. Like I don't buy it. I'm not accumulating anymore. But like Kate said, she moved with 8 boxes. I probably have 8 boxes that are unpacked for 6 years now, sitting in my garage. So I've got more unused stuff than the stuff that you actually use. My next stage is actually getting rid of it, but at least I have stopped accumulating it. I caught on that far. I just got to
Step 1 is down, yeah.
Yeah, just stop, yeah. And then we got to figure out how to get rid of it all.
Steps, yeah.
I'm with you, Tom. Like I kind of realize like how crazy it can get, but you know I've still to go through and like Peter get rid of all the cables that I no longer need.
Well, I still haven't. I haven't gotten rid of it yet.
I've got. If I could show you, if I had a camera that wasn't attached to the computer, it's really kind of ridiculous. I mean, I've got like boxes for things, and it's just dumb.
I have a closet full of computer parts. I probably have dial-up modems in there, so I think I've got
You might need it, Tom. You might need it someday.
For sure, you're not ever needed it.
Can I just tell you how great it is, like down in my entertainment center now that like there's no cable, there's no, you know, we're just streaming everything through the PlayStation now. So I'm like, this is simple. This is easy. Like one cord, and then plug in the power source, and that's it. And like before, we had this like massive tangle of cords, and I'm just looking at it going, why didn't I do this like years ago? And it's going to save me money each month. It looks nicer, and it's going to save me money each month.
You know, this stuff, it almost feels like it has a physical weight on your shoulders sometimes, you know. You accumulate this stuff in your house, and you just look around and you just kind of sigh and go, oh boy, I got to get rid of some of this stuff. Then you never do, and it just weighs on you, you know, until you finally do get rid of it, and then it's almost like a palpable sense of relief that it's gone. Oh, finally.
Get rid of your stuff, Tom. Get rid of your stuff. Free yourself.
I'm going to have to come clean and take a bunch of pictures or something before I actually get rid of it, just so we can see how much of a transformation I could have someday.
That's one
picture.
picture.
To move again.
That's a picture I regret not taking. I filled my car like from the floor of my front passenger seat all the way to every inch of my like back seat and trunk 2.5 times, and I never took a picture of it. And I regret that because I dropped it all off like at different Goodwills and books at the library and all kinds of places, and I wish I'd taken a picture of it. But it's interesting talking, like Peter, when you said the weight of stuff, because that's what most people worry about when getting rid of things is every time you look at something, if you feel like, oh, I should tackle that project soon, or, you know, I want to read that book one day, all that stuff, like it actually, well, people just say like it causes a lot of mental clutter too. And when you look at certain areas of your home, and if those are all of your thoughts, it's negative. You don't really realize it's negative, but over time it becomes like really negative energy because you keep looking at it and feeling bad and guilty that you didn't actually ever use it or read it yet. And the minute you just kind of let it go, it's like you're just like, you know, it sucks I spent money on it. Oh well, like it just sucks. But you know, new me, like me today, I don't even want half of this stuff. So you gotta let it go. But
Some costs.
yeah.
You know, it's crazy. We're talking about like clutter, and we've really been talking about physical clutter. But you know, here I am. I've got a browser open, and it must have like 15 different tabs.
Close the tabs. Just close them.
Just get rid of them.
And it was only recently because I had to use my computer for another project where other people would see my computer, where I actually cleared everything off the desktop and put it into folders and filed them away. You know, because it was just like Peter with the cables. It was like, I might need it. I might need to have access to that. I might need to remember it. And it's like, yeah, you get rid of it and you go, yeah, I'll never open up that Excel spreadsheet again. Like, it feels good to see my desktop screen. And it's like, the clutter isn't even just in the physical world necessarily. You know, it kind of evades you from all sorts of different places too.
Tabs used to be a huge issue for me. I once sent a screenshot. I think I actually just put it on Twitter and tagged a couple friends because I knew they'd get mad. And I think, like, you couldn't even see what anything was anymore. Like, I just had so many things open.
Like, they shrink down so small that
you could just see, like, a little sliver.
Yeah, that's when I know I have to close a few.
I don't do that anymore. I also, like, I used to bookmark tons of things because I was like, I want to read that. I don't want to read it. Like, if I don't read it in the next 20 minutes, it's not happening. Like, just get rid of the bookmark. Just close the tab. You're done. Like, you can only read so many things in a day. And I read a lot of stuff because I work with J Money on Rockstar Finance. So I read a lot of stuff every single day. And there's no capacity for more.
You know, it's interesting. One thing that's helped me there is using an app called Pocket. So if I'm going to read something, like I used to do, I used to just leave the tab open. I'll get to it. I'll read it later.
Yeah.
I hit it in Pocket and close it. If I get to it, awesome. If not, I didn't miss it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? But at least I have this state of mind, like I've sort of reserved it in case I want it. And it's not taking up any space anywhere, at least on my screen. So.
But if you open, yeah, I'm like, if you open Pocket, you would be very overwhelmed.
Well, but even then,
then you feel like you have to read it, yeah.
It's still, the way I order it, it's only like whatever the last one is. So it's like, okay, I did it yesterday. Yeah, I do want to read it. Yeah. But I haven't gone back to things that were like months old to read, you know. And, you know, I'm not paying for the service necessarily, so it's okay that it sits there. Better than being a tab that's open on my computer.
Yeah.
I just find that it's funny that really it extends itself into this electronic world. You know, you don't even have to move but 10 inches and like your life can be cluttered.
My Kindle's starting to get pretty cluttered since I stopped buying books.
That's an improvement, though, if you got to choose one or the other.
Oh, well, yeah, well, that's the thing. And I've rebought some of this stuff, you know, for the Kindle that I used to have. I had more than 1,000 books at one point.
Wow.
That was me with CDs.
We had a ton of books, and I should have taken a picture of the pile of books we had before we left Utah, because I mean it was like we let the neighbors come and paw through the books, and we took a bunch to, you know, the thrift shop and to the library and just everywhere. But yeah, we had, and now I'm down to like I think I have 100 books now, and I think my son has probably about 200 books now. Poor boy. He's like, but no, I need the hard copies. I'm like, no, you really don't.
How many of those are your book? That's okay. So, I mean, it sounds like, you know, it's interesting because I didn't think that this episode was going to necessarily go in this direction where we were all agreeing on how great it could be to be minimalist. Because I think it depends on what your definition is, right? You know, we discovered that it doesn't mean that it's making like your own whatever all the time. You know, that could be useful and you could find that it's a better quality item or whatever, but that doesn't mean that that's your entire life. You know, I'm not trying to crush corn and make a new gas for the car or something like that. And if you can figure that out, that's great. Sign me up.
I'd be a millionaire.
Right.
I grow my own fuel.
You know, and we've talked about it too in this show, and how it's really just about finding the value in the things that you're buying. But for the people who are out there, you know, we are bombarded. You know, I think, I don't want to say our society, but certainly measures of success are built on the things that we buy. You know, our GDP is built on what we produce, and that's based on what we're going to buy. You know, when Apple stock goes up, it's because people are buying more iPhones. When people stop buying iPhones, it goes down, and that's a bad measure. You know, nobody goes, well, you know, maybe you made such a great phone, and nobody's buying a new one. You know, it's like, oh no, everybody didn't just drop what they had. So it's sort of built into our everyday lives that like we're supposed to buy and keep buying, otherwise we're not doing our part almost. How do we avoid that, and how do we get that around people's heads that, you know, it's okay to avoid these things. Marketing is set up in such a way in advertising that we're really just sucked into it. So how do you get around that?
I think for me, one of the things, because I read a bunch of books on kind of why people spend money, and I also read a few books on how to market specifically to women, like how to market products. But one of the things I've really taken from it is, in general, if you look and pay attention to most ads, so not everything, not really cars, or like really expensive things, but general things. If you like flipped through a magazine, newspaper, if you paid attention to all the ads for even 20 minutes that run on your TV, most of the way we're marketed is word for it. It's scarcity. Like we're shown a product that is going to fix some imaginary problem that we apparently have. And so I think the biggest question for me always is just paying attention to what product it is that you think you want to buy. It's totally okay to buy things. Like me doing the shopping ban, like I said, like I still buy toiletries, I still buy things that I need, but I'm not going to buy something because it's been marketed to me because apparently it will make my skin better for this, that, or the other reason. Like I've been using the same thing for like 10 years and it works just fine. And so really just paying attention. We need to buy some things. Like, I mean, there's some pretty cool projects out there. There's a woman named B. Johnson has a pretty cool project called the Zero Waste Lifestyle, or the Zero Waste Home. And she has a book and stuff. And yeah, like there's some pretty interesting stuff in that. So yeah, that's like an extreme. But we do, like average consumer, yeah, buy things, like it's fine. But just pay attention to the reason of why you're buying it. And that's all it is.
Yeah.
Like the biggest thing for me in general in the last year has been paying attention every time I feel the need to buy something, like really, because I have to take these extremely long, 2-year-long pauses and ask myself why I want to buy whatever it is. And if I don't have a really good reason for it, yeah, I mean, why would I ever buy it? But it's more just it pays attention, or it makes me pay attention to all the habits that have been built into me over the years. A friend of mine named Anthony, he calls it the twitch. And so he has a blog called Break the Twitch, and it's because like we constantly feel this need. It's like been built into us that like, because you can go and buy something on Amazon in like 2 seconds. And we just do these things automatically without thinking about it. So as soon as you stop yourself, just like really ask yourself, like, why do I actually need it right now?
Oh, but damn, it feels so good when that box comes in the mail.
But do you actually use the product right in that minute?
Depends on what it is. I mean,
I ordered a shower caddy a couple nights ago because I couldn't find what I wanted in town. So yeah, I'll use that.
Okay, well that's where
that made me happy.
That's where it's a little different in Canada. Tom can
right.
vouch for this too. It's like Amazon doesn't do that for us. Like, we can't get a lot of home stuff. For us, Amazon, it's still like ancient. It's still just like books and movies.
Books and CDs.
Yeah.
I just got an email that Amazon Fresh is opening up, so I could have my groceries by like nighttime.
Yeah, like
we're way behind on that too.
Yeah,
I don't have no Amazon Fresh here in Idaho.
A whole nother level
right
of dangerous.
But you think Canada's in like a second world country or something. Like we're so behind on stuff. We don't get the same stuff as you guys even on Netflix.
Yep.
So sad.
Although Glenn, I did just sign up for Blue Apron because they do deliver out here.
What are they, like a Fresh Direct type of deal?
Yeah, except for they plan your meals out for you and send you the fresh ingredients. So they're all fresh and healthy ingredients, and then they give you the recipe.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because Miranda hasn't had to do meal planning for 13 years, and I don't think I'm ready to do that right now. So.
But that goes back also into the utility and the value.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, I'm trying to lead you here, that you're going to actually get these items and use them and to what they need.
Oh yes, because and it'll keep me from having to go to the store and shop for things. And I was comparing it, and I was like, well, this is still less per week than somebody was spending on groceries before. So
and it gets rid of your
we'll move on from that. But yeah,
it gets rid of your decision fatigue.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Dinner is planned, and there's a recipe right there.
Mm-hmm.
Easy.
I found it's interesting that you mentioned advertising. Once you realize that advertising is really out to get some people, you start to feel a little manipulated in what you're watching. Because otherwise, if you're just watching TV, you don't always see what the ads are. You watch them, but you don't kind of know. Like you hear, but you don't listen. But once you understand what they're trying to do, I worked for an advertising company for a little while, so I was able to see a little bit behind the curtains. You watch certain types of shows, and then you see certain types of commercials, and you go, like you don't even watch the show, and you just go, oh yeah, they expect women to watch this, or they expect guys to watch this, or they expect people who have children to watch this, and you're just like, damn, they're really just aiming for this demographic, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're really just hammering it in for like whatever insecurities or whatever scarcity or whatever's there, and they just kind of attack it over and over again. And sometimes it's kind of, well, I mean, maybe it's my own dorkiness. It's fun to watch a show and just see who they're actually like looking to attack, or target. Let's say. Maybe that's the better word.
No, it's true. Well, we studied that. My background's in communications. We studied that in cultural communications. It's massive. It's called flow. So the way that they map out everything, like every single advertisement that's on a certain TV show is mapped out. It's chosen for that show. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
You watch
and the
something.
time slot and everything.
Right. You watch something during the day when more women tend to be home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all sorts of different products, like, oh, you're home, you're supposed to be cleaning the house, and that's what it's going to be. It's going to be cleaning products during the day, because all these shows were owned by P&G. That's why they're called soap operas. And then you watch something at a different time slot, and it's just a whole different set of items being shown. And it's just a very interesting way to look at how things are being shown to you. And it does open up sort of like your eyes, and you go, wait a minute, what are you really doing to me? Once you see the trick, you go, I see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, really what it comes down to is they're advertising towards your insecurities, the holes that you feel in your life, the different things that different groups of people, they're selling a lifestyle, they're selling something like that. And really what it comes down to is you need to, at some point in your life, be able to sit down and be content with who you are, what you are, know what's important in your life, and then just realize that a lot of these things are not for you. It's not going to make you happy. It's not going to fulfill you and all that kind of stuff. And once you get to that point, it's a lot easier to turn down a lot of these things because you realize it's just empty spending and it's not going to fill you up at the end of the day.
On that note, at the end of all our episodes, we tend to do a final word, and I think Peter did a great job of summing up there. Certainly, if he wants to add to it, he's welcome to it. But we'll go around and we'll give a final word on minimalism, only because as much fun as this has been, we've already hit about an hour or so. So Tom, what's your final word on minimalism?
Well, I'm no expert minimalist, as I've said, but I definitely aspire to be. I think one thing that was brought up what was the marketing. I found I did a lot less spending once I just stopped kind of looking at ads. Like I don't watch any commercials during TV, even though they're kind of hidden in the shows now too. But that's besides the point. But just having less advertising coming at me has made it a little easier to not always need to get the next new thing.
Good point. How about Miranda? What's your final word on a minimalist lifestyle?
Yeah, so I'm not a true minimalist either, I guess I wouldn't say, but I'm not going on a shopping ban anytime soon. But I do think, it goes back to, figure out what really matters to you and focus on that kind of stuff. Because there was a time in my life where I would look at piles of things in my house and just look at that and say, oh my gosh, that's like a weekend getaway. Oh my gosh, that's a trip to Europe. Oh my gosh. And those kinds of experiences are things that I value more than having a pile of stuff. And so, so just getting back to, what Kate was saying earlier about, why are you spending the money on this? And what's it really bringing into your life? And that's sort of where I've kind of gone and just said, I'd rather be spending my money on experiences, so I don't need to buy all these things. And if having a pile of stuff really makes you happy and you don't want to leave the house and go do experiences, that's cool too. But figure out if that's what's important to you.
And Peter, did you want to add anything else to your answer there?
No,
before?
I'll pass on mine. I think I covered it there.
All right, player pass. We'll pass. And Kate, if you'll close that out for us, your final word on living a minimalist lifestyle.
I think actually it'll just expand off of what Miranda just said. So I would say, and I wrote about this actually just this week, but something that I do often is I set a timer for 2 minutes and I write down everything that's important to me right now. And not just money, like what people are in my life, just whatever comes to mind in 2 minutes, and it can just be like a scribbly mess. And I guarantee you can then look at that list and kind of, like, I then look at it, kind of compare it to my spending over the last few months, see if it's kind of matching with what's important to me right now. It's not a minimalist thing per se, but I think it would be an exercise that could be very eye-opening for people, just to see if they're spending and if what they're consuming is kind of lining up with what they really value.
So it's an interesting quick audit of your lifestyle. Very nice. So Kate, thank you so much for coming and joining us here. I think this was a great discussion today. And like I said, I wasn't sure where it was going to go because, minimalism versus spending, we tend to be a very pro credit card bunch here too.
Well, me too.
But spending doesn't necessarily mean that it's debt either. It's all in the value of what you're putting that money towards. For people who are out there that may not know Blonde on a Budget, if you could tell them a little bit about yourself as well as your site.
Sure, yeah. Blonde on a Budget, blonde with an E, onabudget.com or .ca. Same for Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I publish every Monday, sometimes more, but I publish at least every Monday, and usually just share thoughts on how, kind of my journey with improving my finances, embracing minimalism, just being more mindful about stuff, just how it's all affecting my life. So, and I talk about the shopping ban.
So head on over there, blondeonabudget.com. That's BLONDE. My spelling isn't always so great, so I kind of missed that the first time. Head out there and take a look. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you everybody out there for watching and listening. And until next week, be good with your money.
Thanks for joining us on the Money Mastermind Show. Get more information at moneymastermindshow.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Google+.